Hey,
Yeah.
finally got it going.
Yeah.
Uh,
After some good hard work.
uh, yeah, I love figuring out tech problems after smoking a bunch of weed. It's it's fantastic,
It's the perfect mindset to be
right?
doing, like minute details
wait,
and
wait. Hand me that paper clip and do you have any saran wrap lying around? I got an idea. Uh, it's episode 2 of Steph's Box. Yeah, suck it. And my awesome guest today got Khefreun. He's a poet, astrologer, and spokesperson for the Hair Club for Men. Uh, uh,
yes,
so,
I'm not only advertising for them, but I am also a satisfied customer.
right. Uh,
It works wonders.
uh, yeah, that reminds me. I just heard somebody saying that their dad claims that they put Rogaine in their hair, but that they took a shower and it washed it all out, and that's why they have a hairy back.
Oh my gosh. Does it work that way? Like wherever you put it, just starts spontaneously growing hair?
Yeah.
Is that how it actually works?
What do I look like, a fucking scientist to you? I don't
I'm
know.
gonna say that'd be pretty funny, right?
Yeah. Uh, um, yeah. You got so much hair in your butt crack. You're not just getting brownie flakes. You're getting entire like pans out of the oven.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
yeah,
You
that's
gotta
a fun.
yeah, you gotta scrape it out of there with a comb, you
Oh,
know.
okay. That's enough of that. Like that's not the right
Great
tone to set.
start.
Yeah,
Great start.
I know, right? Right. Um. Okay. So, um, if you were to describe, like, give me your life story in 3 sentences or less.
Let's see. I was born in a desert. I uh, I believe that art is the summation of all things, and I only need the two.
Oh,
Yeah.
born in born in the desert, like when you're like Route 66. Like mom had you in the back seat of the car on a long road trip.
I wouldn't be surprised. I bet that's not far off.
um, that's I don't know why, but for some reason your mom rides in the back seat in that in that story. um, we could go to the hospital after I play some blackjack. uh,
Dude.
okay. Yay. Um, no, I've never. Your parents are pretty refined, though, right? Like educated professionals and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. Both of them are in the medical field, so
Mm.
yeah.
Uh, get all
Well,
those good drugs.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. So I mentioned like you write poetry and you act. You're a big theater geek. I know you play music. Like you kind of dabble in a lot of things, but what would you say you're an expert at?
What am I an expert in? I don't think I'd actually say I'm an expert in any given thing, but
Except for modesty.
oh yes, the most modest.
Yeah.
But I would say that my greatest passions are music and writing in general.
Mm.
Writing including storytelling and just the art of narrative, you know.
Making
But
shit up.
Yeah. Yeah, pulling it straight out of my ass, you know. But
uh, that's the cornerstone of any lasting relationship, by the way.
right, yeah. Yeah.
But
But
you were gonna say, yeah.
yeah, yeah, but I would say the things that I'm best at go hand in hand with my passion. And so astrology is another thing that I've always been very passionate about. And so and that's the thing about it, is that any for anybody, anything you're good at comes from a dedicated focus to whatever subject it is that you're most interested in. And the thing that you're most naturally interested in draws your attention to it effortlessly. And so, for
I'm getting bored. I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Yes,
well,
passion.
yeah, yeah, but so being good at a thing just means being excited about a thing, as far as I see it.
Right, right, right. Well, out of all that passion, what pays the bills aside from hooking during the day under the freeway overpass?
I'll let you know when I figure that out. Yeah.
Have you have you ever had like a regular job?
I don't know. I've gotten paid to teach when I was back at the Mascue Theater in Minnesota, where I got my theater chops.
Eh?
I was involved in a lot of the teaching programs there, and there was a couple times that I was assistant to the main teacher, and so that was a job I got paid for a little while. And then while I was in California, like uh, right when weed became legalized, I had a job working for this guy doing um, like trimming work, like
Right.
getting the buds and put them in the bags and vacuum sealing them,
Right.
and like making rollies out of this big machine, which you fill up and shake it all down into the pre-rolls. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. See, I live in a state where it's not legal, and you don't know how many fucking burnout losers we could employ here if it was legal. Like, um, go over there, like cut these clippings for 8 hours, because like,
Right,
and
yeah.
and you can give you a couple of joints afterwards, and
I,
uh,
I I forget what the exact number was, but I just saw during the last year that it's been legal here in Arizona. It's brought in some.
wait, it's legal in Arizona?
Yeah, yeah, it just became recreationalized
It's
over the
in
last
Arizona.
year in
Wow.
Arizona. Yes.
Yeah, it's like one of the reddest estates, isn't it?
Well, not lately.
Mm.
Yeah, it switched over the last election, but it's been legal for a year now, and it's brought in some $200 billion of tax revenue.
Yep,
You know, you
sounds
know,
sounds about right.
yeah. And so yeah, Arizona's doing real well from from that particular decision. So like from an economic standpoint, I don't see how people can deny it much longer.
Yeah, yeah. Um, well, I think I was gonna say something stupid. Never mind. Like something stupid about like, yeah. Well, I mean, potheads. You know how good they are at like getting legislation through the machinations of bureaucracy. Like, wait. The vote was today. Oh man, I thought it was Taco Tuesday. uh, yeah.
I was
But
like the ghost of Mitch coming
oh
through there for a minute.
yeah.
I saw him in your face.
uh, um. Yeah. Yeah. He did a lot of drugs.
Mhm. Yeah.
um.
Really? That guy, Mitch? No.
Yeah. Yeah. uh. Yeah. So, well, what do you do for a paycheck these days? Like,
Um, well, I do some astrology gigs here and there. I get some help from my family for
mm,
for the most part of it. But yeah, I'm looking to get into the cannabis business some more
Ah,
now that everything's been recreationalized. All of these dispensaries are open up all over the place, and so
mm.
that's some sweet work.
Make some extract.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what was I gonna say? Damn. Da 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 da. Astrology, the weed business, and you've got your hair club spokesperson money coming in.
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
Um, and yeah, but astrology, like, so, um, how much do people pay for that shit?
My normal going rate is $35 for an hour long reading,
Mm,
and my readings target uh, the present moment of a person's life. A lot of people try to go to divination readers of any kind, tarot or astrology or psychic readers or whatever. They try to see things in the future, but that's like a
I
that's
I
a
have I have a vision.
yeah.
Not tomorrow, not the next day, but someday soon, you will
Yeah.
stub your toe on the coffee table and it'll hurt very, very badly.
Right, yeah. Yeah, like it's a like trying to predict the future in any regard is a crapshoot, and it just, your best bet is just to reduce things to probability. But
Mm,
but the true, the real value of these things comes in understanding yourself on a deeper level. It's more of a reflection of your own patterns and the things you're doing to create and influence your own life, and to find ways of taking agency over yourself, and or getting to know yourself better so that you can live in a better harmony with who you really are as a person. And
mm.
so in an hour long reading, would anybody who comes to me is essentially looking for some answer relative to that bottom line. Whether that's about their relationships or finding a job,
Why
or
do
just
people keep telling me I'm an asshole? Well, it says right here that you're a Leo.
Yeah, there are moments where you have to say, like, this person is predisposed to be rather selfish,
Mm.
or crass, or they just have an empathy problem. But the thing that I've learned in doing astrology, I've done this for well over 10 years now, doing readings for people. And the thing that I've learned two essential things about people through it, which is, the first is that everybody is entirely special and unique and has some sort of,
Snowflakes.
yeah, exactly. But it sounds cliche, but there is truth. Like, everyone has some very, very unique talent that, if they give it a lot of hard work and develop it and put it out there, it will add something very valuable to the human race and be very rewarding for them personally. And so everybody's has some sort of very unique brilliance or talent,
Um,
or
what about pedophiles?
well,
What do
yeah,
they
well,
add to the human race?
well, see, if their true self were not perverted by some extreme form of abuse, then what they would have to offer would be just as special. But that's the other thing, so the number two thing I've learned about people is that first is that everybody's special. Second is that everybody is a dick. Everybody has been fucked over, fucked up, like, in some way, abused and beat and destroyed by the conditions of simply being a
Or
living thing. And so everybody is somewhere on the spectrum of maladjusted, like, some people,
well, that's the thing. Like, what's the baseline of comparison? If everybody's maladjusted, then what's the mal part of that? Everybody seems to just be adjusted. It's just
I would say the line is functionality. If you have a capacity to to function with yourself in and amongst the world and society, then you are in a state of relative control over the factors that have influenced you, you know. But there are a lot of traumas and damages that occur to people that maladjust them to such a degree that they do not function in society, you know.
Ah, I don't really function in society. I mean, you know,
Well,
uh,
I think you're a special case.
I
I think you're meant. I
that's what
think
my
you're more
mom
meant.
told me.
I think you're more meant to refunction society. You
Oh,
know, to
right.
update. You
Yeah,
know.
through the power of dick jokes.
Yeah,
um,
it's a very potent force. You
yeah,
shouldn't
yeah.
be underestimated.
So okay, like you talk about like this psychology of astrology, and that's how you use it. But um, so in that case, why not just be a therapist? What the fuck did the planets have to do with it?
So there is when you really start learning the system, and you start learning what these symbols mean and what they correspond to in nature. Essentially, the philosophy of it is that symbolism is the foundational method of communication from the natural world to its members. So to all of its creatures, all of its thinking conscious beings that live within the world, essentially the ultimate form of communication is symbolism, because a symbol can represent a nearly infinite number of concepts while still being a distinct concept from other concepts. And a symbol transcends language in that it doesn't need to be spoken. You know, it can be witnessed, it can be heard, it can be uh, it can be seen or felt. It can be something that is a combination of senses
But
that.
they're not universal. They're contextual, based off of the society that originated, or the purpose behind the symbol. So like
Well, and
like the
that's,
swastika means two different things to do two different peoples.
of
Or,
course, yeah.
uh,
And that's what's very fascinating about esoteric traditions of all of the human race, not just from the Western world, but that all esoteric traditions uh, have within themselves a language of symbolism. You know, that and these symbols represent natural forces, you know, elements of nature that move and change and create and destroy the environment around a people. And so the symbols they develop are relative to their time and space and their cultural frameworks, but the transference of knowledge is still highly effective, as uh, we can look at a set of hieroglyphics from thousands of years ago, and because of the pictorial symbolism represented in there, there's a level of communication that it offers.
what I would disagree with that, because if it wasn't for the Rosetta Stone, we would know fuck all about what the hieroglyphics were trying to say.
Well, in a literal sense, perhaps, but also there is a very fascinating um, researcher named Laird Scranton, who is originally a computer programmer, who found a peoples in West Africa called the Dogon, and these
Mm,
peoples have maintained the language, the writing, the philosophy, the sciences of ancient Egypt
huh.
deep within the Sahara, deep within a small isolated community within the Sahara. And this guy Scranton has worked with them and talked to them and spoken with them and done these research comparison projects comparing their language and writing to that of the ancient Egyptian, and has found an absolute absolute match between the these languages.
Oh,
And
well, we should ask the Dogon who built the pyramids then.
that's a good question.
Was it aliens? Was it little gray guys and saucers came down with their laser beams and yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know about
Maybe.
that. You don't think they have better shit to do? Like, hey, we flew all the way across the galaxy to help you with your, little construction project. You know, oh, one of your leaders died. Okay, let's stack some bricks for him.
Well,
um,
that depends on what the thing does, right? That depends on what it
oh
actually
yeah,
is,
right.
you
The
know?
whole you know, power antenna, like the um, yeah. I don't know if I buy. I don't think I buy that. Like
Hmm.
um, yeah, like people will sell like glass pyramids and say if you put a razor blade in there, it'll make it sharper. And it's like no, no, it won't.
Well, no, not about that, but there is this really great book by author Christopher Dunn, who is a machine engineer,
Mm,
and he went and visited the pyramids and using modern measuring techniques, took a bunch of um, scales of it, and wrote this very excellent book about how he suggests that the pyramid was some sort of machine designed to generate energy because of the way it was built, like the different types of materials that were used, the specific dimensions of the structure, the
Materials, like what kinds of materials?
so the inner core of the pyramid is made from a very specific type of limestone, and the outer casing of the pyramid was made from a different type of limestone. The
Okay.
inner the inner type conducts electricity. The outer type, it does not. And so essentially what you have is a uh, forget what the term is called, but
Hamster cannon.
yeah,
Yeah.
essentially.
When
And this
I
this
went,
this is of course what I suggest is the true purpose of the pyramid, which is that, like when the planets would align, the top would open and just shooting hamsters out, like just
wee.
all over the land of Egypt, and there
Yeah.
would be prosperity. And
Mm. So the Bible was wrong. It wasn't frogs. It was
it was
hamsters.
hamsters,
Yeah.
yes.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
So okay. So like that limestone is a good conductor, but uh, that's tying that into like theorizing that the pyramids are a giant machine, like is presuming that the ancient Egyptians knew about conductivity and knew how to harness electricity, where
Right.
there's not really any other indications that they did.
The book goes into a great deal of evidence, suggesting that the Egyptians had some form of advanced machine tooling. That it was the idea of the Egyptians using stones and copper chisels to construct these monuments is absolutely ridiculous. And there are lots of different sites all over Egypt, both at the pyramids and throughout many of the temple complexes, where you find precision drilled holes, where the actual tool markings can be visibly seen.
Mm.
And uh, and so and there's lots of different details about the ancient Egyptian construction, uh, that that as Dunn analyzes, like if you're looking at this like it's a machine, and you're analyzing this from
Oh,
from the way modern machines are built, and understanding what it actually takes to construct and work with materials of this size and stature, like
well,
the comparison of what they build to modern architecture is it's of an equivalence.
Um, yeah, but the time scale is different, you know? Like, I mean, pyramids weren't built super fast. I mean, it took like, you know, a generation, like, or decades. Um, or but yeah, okay, so if it's a machine, what's it supposed to do?
So this is Dunn's theory, but Dunn suggests that it generated energy, that it was a sort of power plant. And what he suggests is that what are the largest construction projects that human beings engage in? And he cites the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam is this absolutely massive construct where we completely reshaped the environment around this river. And for what purpose? Why did we pour this much energy into that level of a construction project unless it was actually going to return to us something of great value? And that thing of
Tourism.
value, that thing is well, no, the Hoover Dam, it's a hydroelectric dam. There's like the
I
level of
know.
power it gives back to us is the reason that thing was constructed. And so
Right.
he
Okay, so
suggests that the level of resources of both physical things and people needed to construct an edifice of this size, like, why on earth would you do that unless it was going to actually serve some sort of practical function within
well,
your society?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Uh, here the holes that I see. Like, okay, so first of all, to serve a practical thing, to ancient Egyptians, like their spiritual beliefs were like, you know, like in the uppermost priority thingamajigger list, and yeah, because of because of their extensive preparations for the afterlife and you know the time they spent constructing all of these temples and their elaborate writings on magic and ritual and all of that, like constructing such a fucking monolith for the sake of giving your pharaoh, who is the incarnation of Ra, a living god, right, to ensure his safe passage into the afterlife, spending millions of man hours to construct such a thing would be seen as a practical purpose, right? Um, and the notion that, like, it's a power generator, a power for what? There's not light posts going, uh, on the streets of an ancient Egyptian city. There's no conduits of any kind coming away from the pyramid into, like, yeah, like
My
what would it be
so
powering?
so
My psychic powers?
my guess is that it would resemble something like Tesla's vision of a wireless power distribution uh, like system. So the concept of a structure harnessing geomagnetic energy out of the earth and the atmosphere to then redistribute it across an entire area is completely within the realm of design. Tesla had that shit all written up. He
Well,
he had,
I'm
he
not.
had, des-
I'm
he
not.
had designed and proven the concept of the entire thing, and the only
But
reason it never came to light was because of the funding issues,
um,
but see but this
that and
is
his enemies on the planet Venus gave him cancer.
that could
But
be, that could be.
but here's the thing. Like, I'm not saying it's like a total cockamamie idea that you could harness energy in that way. But the question is, like, what were they powering? Like, there's no archaeological findings of ancient Egyptian machinery, right?
No, there's not evidence of the machinery itself, because the machinery itself can be In order for the machines to do the constructing, they need to be mobile in some way. They need to be assembled to some degree. And so, unlike the edifice itself, which was designed in such a way to withstand thousands and thousands of years worth of time, from the way the building these sites were constructed, it is very clear that whoever did build this had intended very clearly to use an architecture that could withstand time. These structures are earthquake proof, like the way the bricks and these stones lock together uh, make them incredibly resilient to the ravages of time. And so these things were able to last the thousands and thousands of years in history. But the things that were used to build the structures might have been much more uh, uh, you know, susceptible to the ravages of time. They may have had like wood components to them, or other or rope components to them and I'm not even saying that these things were of a modern technical standard or a futuristic technical
Oh,
standard.
they were totally powering ancient Egyptian Gundam suits, with pyramid power.
How sweet would that be?
Yeah.
But
Go
it's
forth, soldiers, and enslave the Jews.
it would be a far more advanced or form than just simply copper chisels is the idea.
Well,
Is that they like it's proposed in classical Egyptology that they didn't even have the wheel. And this has been like that's clearly not true. Like
yeah.
they clearly had an understanding of the wheel and rotational dynamics. And
Mm, yeah. Well, I don't know. Might never know.
yeah.
But yay, pyramid power. uh, but I mean, there's a lot of hieroglyphs on the inside.
There actually are not. That is one of the distinct features of the pyramids which differentiate them from all other known Egyptian tombs, is that most Egyptian tombs throughout all of the old kingdoms, the new kingdoms, feature very, very elaborate reliefs and incantational hieroglyphs,
Right.
like and there was a great deal of religious significance to that, in that it was these images and hieroglyphics that were the magic that allowed someone to pass through into the afterlife and have a sanctuary for their soul in the afterlife. So the fact that the pyramids are completely devoid of these things is
They're
part of
not.
the.
They're not completely devoid. I'm looking right here. Um, there are mysterious hieroglyphs written in red paint on the floor of a hidden chamber in Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza.
Ooh.
And the theory is that there are some kinds of some numbers, like numbers 1 through 20. Um, yeah, and yeah, 3 red ochre figures painted on the floor of a hidden chamber. And yeah, there appears to be a masonry cutting mark next to the figures. And hmm. Yeah,
There there
okay,
are
so it's
there
hieratic,
Yeah, there are
hieratic
also
numerical
there are
signs.
also somewhere on the structures cartouches dedicated to the three pharaohs, who are they're supposed to be associated with, like Khufu and Khafre, and I'm not
Uh,
I'm not sure about the other one, but
Actually, it says here the markings. Um, Basically, the builders just recorded the length of the shafts. So, because yeah, from right to left, it's read meaning 100, 20, and 1, which is the total length of 121 cubits. The royal cubit, the ancient Egyptian unit of measurement. So yeah, okay. um, but yeah, so there wasn't like ritualistic um incantations from the Book of the Dead or anything.
Right.
Um, uh, well, shit. This is this is getting good, but I unfortunately have to pause here because I've got to go and do a band rehearsal. But
Okay. Go. Bonjour.
hey, another episode of Steph Spots.
Part 2.
Fuck yeah. What was that dance called?
That's the Kalimba Dance.
Ah,
That's
the
yeah,
Kalimba Dance, which
right.
is the name of that instrument. I think. Hold on a second.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think at one point in one previous episode, I just referred to it as some trippy hippie toy. But oh shit, you froze. You froze. Oh shit.
I froze.
Yeah, you were just frozen still for a whole minute.
Oh, okay. It's back now though.
Yep.
Bene.
Dun, dun, dun. um. Oh, and what's your noise canceling to set to? Because it seems like it might be like over gating you.
Overgating me.
As in,
Let's see. It's on default. How's low? How's that?
okay. Yeah, no,
Is that
you sound good, but it seems like some words are cutting off, and I can't tell if it's
okay? Let me turn
digital.
up turn up my gain a little bit. How's that? Is that a little better?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's
A little bit better.
it might be partially just bad connection shit, which my internet sucks too. Um,
Indeed.
Yay, Spectrum. Fuck you, Spectrum. um, yeah,
Bloody cable companies and their
yeah,
monopoly.
right. uh, they played too much of that fucking board game as kids.
We figured this shit out.
Yeah, we are the utilities.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're not public, so we can do whatever the hell we want because we have corporate personhood. uh,
Must be nice.
yeah, right.
I want to commit crimes and get away with it.
Yeah, you can't come at me individually because I'm not a person. I'm a corporation. Yeah, yeah. I'm a person with all the rights and none of the ramifications.
Consequences.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, like what we're gonna knowingly dump all this toxic waste into the fresh water supply and get a slap on the wrist. You know, that's if like someone came up to you at a bar and just took a shit in your drink and said, "What are you gonna do about it?" And they're like, "Oh, nothing."
Shame on you, sir.
Yeah,
Shame.
yeah. Um, you shouldn't have done that. Maybe apologize. Nope, not gonna do that.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. I ruined your drink.
You
Shit
can't.
all in it. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, well, the FDA says it's perfectly safe to drink, so.
Yeah, yeah. They're the arbiters.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So last time we talked about fudge brownies. We talked about Hair Club for Men. We talked about astrology. We talked about ancient Egyptian Gundam suits and and hamster cannons. Yeah.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, I think the hamster cannon is a breakthrough technology that really needs more attention, you know.
I'm working on some schematics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm saving up for filing the patent, which is
Yeah,
not
get
cheap.
those patents in,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, Next thing you know, I'll have the CIA knocking on my door. Like, we wish to purchase this from you, if you know what I mean. Go the way of the water-powered car.
Ham with a hamster cannon,
Yeah.
Try to overthrow governments with the hamster cannon.
Yeah.
The latest in espionage technology.
Speaking of though, like on a serious topic, I was watching the 60 Minutes episode earlier today, and it was about Havana syndrome. Have you heard of Havana syndrome?
I've heard it, but I'm not familiar with what exactly it is.
Right, and honestly, I heard about it first from the UFO alien subreddit, or the alien community, and because the narrative from them is that these military and government officials that have these symptoms have come in contact with UAPs, right? But from what I was hearing today, that's not entirely the case. Apparently, what's been going on, according to some of the government people that were speaking out that have been affected by it, is that when traveling abroad or even on the fucking White House grounds, there's been people that all of a sudden feel like this physical sensation, like this very directional physical sensation that is painful, but also disorienting and like deafening. Like it causes this really high pitched, almost like cicadas sound, but like way more intense. It fucks up their equilibrium, gives them vertigo. They start having memory loss. The first case of it was 2016, and the guy now has to, like, he's blind in one eye. It caused blindness because, and the problem isn't the eye, it's the nerve signaling is off, and nobody knows how to fix that. So now he needs like a full-time service dog just to be able to walk. And some of these people, their kids have been hit by it too. Like up to 8 children have been hit with it, and which the symptoms, like another one is like memory loss and trouble finding words and stuttering, and it's affected their performances in school, and all of this damage is ongoing, right? Like it just like you get hit with this thing, it scrambles your melon, and you can't. There's no like forensic evidence of the attack, but what was interesting is the whole time I was thinking like this has to be like a microwave cannon. It's got to be something like that. Sure enough, later in the show, a physicist came on and said this is most likely a high energy directed microwave weapon, and yeah. So
oh wow, fascinating.
And just so you know, like building a microwave cannon, like if you wanted to build one as a hobbyist, so to speak, for like research purposes, it's still considered an act of terrorism in the United States. And so I don't know what if I don't think the Geneva Convention has any provisions against using such weapons, because the time of its inception, that was kind of still in a theoretical space,
right?
If even. And yeah, so and oh, damn it, I forgot to turn my ringer off again. Bad podcast host, bad.
For shame.
Yeah, I know, right?
But yeah, Havana syndrome. So
Yeah.
this was originally associated with UFO phenomena.
Not originally, but still is. But yeah, like yeah, it's been the two have been linked.
I see. Right. Yeah, it sounds like yeah, it could also have been some sort of secret, developed weapon or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where the line gets blurred is pretty tricky in that. That's
Well,
like what is genuinely extraterrestrial phenomena, and then what
right.
is
A
like
fucking plane.
yeah, or
Uh-huh.
covert military operations.
Right. Right. But here's the thing: the very first reported attack took place in China.
Hmm.
Um, just like the first case of COVID. So I mean,
And now these are referred to as attacks.
yep.
Like
Well, because everybody that has been hit with this have all said it is definitely directional,
mm,
as in it happens in a location and leaving that location, it goes away, and returning to that location resumes.
uh,
So it's definitely, yeah, like a.
is this a thing where only people have been affected by it, or have they found like
Uh,
wildlife or plant life also?
well, in one of the attacks, there were dogs nearby that were going crazy and like,
Mm.
acting out. But I don't think it's known if like they were directly affected by it, because it puts off a really piercing sound as a
I see.
byproduct. So
Mm.
that could have been why the dogs were,
Gotcha.
going nuts.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, who knows?
who knows? Yay!
The Geneva Convention should have addressed social media as a form of
Right?
as a form of like international warfare.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, maybe you should have listened to Alan Turing instead of driving him to suicide, you assholes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, how could they have known?
yeah, well, uh,
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting subject because the threat of nuclear war after World War II sort of established the mutual destruction
right,
aspect of global powers, but it never accounted for the advancement of technology making much less complicated forms of technology available to regular people. You
right,
know,
right.
you know
Yeah,
like
anybody can build a microwave cannon. It's frighteningly simple.
right, yeah.
You just take apart a microwave and you get yourself a waveguide. Boom.
And
That's
apparently
pretty much it.
it's effective enough that you can use it without being traced, if
Yeah,
this is indeed something like some sort of weapon technology that's being used on people. No one's found any evidence that of
yeah,
where it came from or who's doing it.
yeah.
But, maybe
Um,
this is the kind of thing that you could, yeah, and like drone technology, things that you can operate remotely.
yeah.
And
Well,
yeah.
even more so with cyber attack,
Mm,
which like we don't, you know, there's not even rules of engagement for that. So it's like okay, well, people are using those weapons, and using those bots, and well, how do we respond? Like, you know, I mean, a lot of people would argue that we've been not at a cold war, but at full on war for
right.
almost a decade.
Mm,
uh, and you know, because we don't, it's not the conventional, boots on the ground type of attack. So it's not in the public eye so much, because,
right.
there's still plenty of people that are like, oh, computers, those are for nerds.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, there's, it's solidly proved that there are foreign troll farms pretending to be American peer groups
Oh, yeah.
and doing this solely for the purpose of causing chaos and antagonism amongst our culture. And this is perfectly legal. There's
Right.
no precedent to
Yeah.
address such a thing. But
Yeah.
clearly, like our people are under a psychological form of attack, through
Yeah.
the social media.
Well, yeah, because previously, uh, independent communications networks weren't susceptible to foreign powers propaganda. That's within the realm of everybody else's, like their government. Everybody uses propaganda. We know that. But it's always been, like, well, the government runs, controls pretty much what's on where, the TV stations, the radio stations, and wasn't a whole lot of those anyways. Newspapers. I mean, the government doesn't control, but like it's like nobody in Ukraine. Well, it didn't exist back then. Nobody in Russia is like reading American newspapers so much, like
Right.
except for maybe people that are have a specific interest in it. But
Mhm.
now, like, everybody's connected to the world, and the whole anonymity of it doesn't help.
Well, and the profit incentive of the companies themselves to allow it to happen,
Mm,
like with the whole Cambridge Analytica incident, Facebook was entirely complicit with
yeah,
the troll farms operations and the manipulation of the 2016 election. It was 100% complicit because it was making a lot of money
yeah,
doing so, Yeah.
yep. The rage algorithms make money.
Mhm.
um, I have kind of this uh, pet hypothesis, like, because in the trans community, like, there's been all of these like demi-genders popping up, like all these micro identities.
Mhm.
um, like, I'm a demi boy, which means I'm a guy who dresses like a guy, is straight, but sometimes feels girly.
Yeah.
It's like, shut the fuck up. Like that's not, that's just, like, you could be, an effeminate man, or you can be masculine and feminine, because most people are, right? That's not, like, it's like, oh, I want to be special. I want, like pride privilege. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
um, everybody's like racing to get into the alphabet mafia so that they
Right.
can,
Yeah.
like be seen as like woke and progressive. Got to get internet points. But no, part of me thinks that that because of, like, the issue is so divisive in this country, it doesn't put it past me that foreign troll farms would infiltrate communities like that to sow division, even amongst, or not even foreign, like domestic
Yeah.
trolls, like conservatives. And they do that. They go on and, like the super straight movement, or, like, uh, or no, the big one is like 4chan or 8chan or what the fuck ever, trying to get a P added to the letters to stand for pedophile, um, and trying
Right.
to get that. And but yeah, no, even so, but those are obvious, like, I'm talking about, the people that, that tend to speak online as like the biggest activists, but like,
Right.
yeah, have some bullshit, micro identity. And it's not. I'm not saying all of them are trolls, because I think there are plenty of people out there that it's like, oh, this is just, what we do now as a society. This is my identity, and that's,
Right. Yeah.
I have to apply all of these labels so that everybody knows, I'm this way and that, but I think I don't think it was those people that like originated those ideas necessarily. I think like
Yeah.
trolls could have put that in place to make, the legitimate community look ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of bad faith actors, people who are just deliberately muddying the water, and then uh, talking shit afterwards.
Mhm.
But in general, I think that human beings have a very immature and naive default setting. and that in order to understand any given subject, the truth of it, the complexity of it, it requires a great deal of thought. It requires a great deal of analysis and experience. You need to really understand a thing from many levels. So when it comes to
Fuck that. Fuck that. God did it.
but so we as human beings, we're trying to figure out this equality thing. We're trying to figure out this harmonious civilization thing. Like, what the fuck does that look like? How do we as human beings have freedoms? How do we act coherently with one another? How do we just not fight and kill each other like on a
Well,
day-to-day basis?
the problem with that and why I think it'll never happen is because, there's a percentage of the population that is just born without the capacity for empathy. It's just boom, like their brain doesn't process it. There's not a treatment for it. You can't treat a psychopath into being able to relate to other people's feelings in a meaningful way, like beyond just mimicry. Um, and so yeah, I mean, anything short of like progress in genetic manipulation, which again, that still falls to like kind of an ethical conundrum because I mean, do we want to, you know, I mean,
Well,
well, I don't know. Like a lot of people would agree that psychopathy is not a desired trait in any population
sure.
because, um,
Sure, but there are social environments and circumstances which incentivize particular behaviors. So take a culture.
capitalism.
Well, take a culture like the Spartans,
Yeah.
where the center of their culture is war, fighting, and alphahood, let's
Right.
say.
Right.
And so like by the time you're 6 years old, you either start becoming a warrior or you're thrown off a cliff.
Right.
You either, if there's anything wrong with you, you're thrown off a cliff.
Yeah.
If you display too much empathy for your enemy, you are put to the sword. This
Right.
there
So they
there's
selected for that trait.
exactly in this culture, that's like people who are predisposed to psychopathy or sociopathy are incentivized by the culture itself to get ahead. The
Yeah.
the the
Oh yeah.
environment.
There's only winners. You
Exactly.
don't
It
winners
rewards
and
them
losers. You
for
want to be
this
a
kind of
loser?
behavior, and it penalizes empathy and connectivity. But then you have a culture like the Tibetan Buddhists who
Mm.
are pacifistic to the core, who their entire culture, you cannot even hurt an insect, like. And so depending on.
But you can. But it is perfectly okay to run a theocratic government at the subjugation of those in poverty below the religious caste.
The religious caste system of, say, like India and the Hindus peoples is different than like the Tibetan system, or a lot of
Well,
the Buddhist traditions.
well,
But like you do still have a point. But basically, every culture is incentivizing a certain set of behaviors and de-incentivizing or even
right,
penalizing another set of behaviors.
right.
And so this will determine who gets ahead and who is held behind. And I
So
think,
wait. So what you're saying is that just as a society, we do eugenics anyways,
yeah,
not
like
even
from
consciously.
from from yeah, from a culture, like top down, sort of a way, without even noticing it. We're all being influenced by our environment and our traditions and our social standards relative to our culture. And then within that culture, it's divided even further by your gender, your race, your
Yeah.
class, like all of these
How many
strands.
testicles you have?
Yeah, right. And so like we as human beings, at least I hope enough of us have figured out that the hierarchical systems, whatever way they're designed, they don't work. They just
Right.
don't. work. Like if you put these people over these people, if you create power differentials based upon any arbitrary standard, your society is going to suck. It's just going to be terrible.
Well, I love this. I love this quote. I wish I could remember that attribution. But yeah, we basically have prehistoric brains, feudal institutions, and godlike technology.
Exactly. Yeah, and so like it almost seems like the cards are stacked against us, you know? Yeah,
Right.
like Schmachtenberger, who pointed out
Oh,
that.
I think that's who I heard it from.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was basically saying that, you know, our brains aren't equipped to compete with the level of technology that has been developed, you know?
That's
And
why we need to merge with it.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, we need to evolve, you know,
Yeah.
very, very quickly in order to meet the challenges that are being presented to us at this
Right.
stage.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Elon
so
Musk
so I
is
think
right, but he
yeah, so
can't.
like when it comes to the micro identities of marginalized peoples, essentially the intention is that, look, we want to break down the barriers of that have been keeping us apart. Like gender is been one of these stratifying institutions in our human culture, in our human as in history, as far back as we can remember, we've been stratified by gender. We need to break this. We need
Well, yeah.
to dissolve the rigid construct of gender and come to understand a much more varied spectrum of the notion itself, if we are to overcome the limitations that like the rigid gender definitions have
Yeah.
have kept us in this whole time.
Nature, right? Like nature, like the universe doesn't favor binary conditions. It
Exactly.
favors gradients.
The
Uh,
health of any given environment depends upon its diversity. The more different things you have in an environment, the healthier that environment is going to be.
right.
You know, and but like I said, human beings, I think by our nature are immature and naive about things. So even with this good intention or this vague understanding that we need to begin dissolving the boundaries and create a more level playing field, and free of the arbitrary uh, dividers, like people are just getting it wrong.
Right.
People are just misdefining and or over defining and falling
Right.
into the
Right.
same sort of traps, but
Right.
like with
I
good intentions.
I remember there's something great you said, because you know using. I mean, hell, when you and I met, I don't think there were so many different terms to describe so many different uh, situations along a gender spectrum. And but going like you embrace both masculine and feminine, and I readdressed that not too long ago, using the new terminology, and was like, so what would you be? Non-binary, gender fluid, and you used the best words, single word description. Do you remember what it was?
Anthropic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I'm human
Yeah.
shaped.
Right. Yeah. 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 And the concept is that there's this term non-binary, which is supposed to describe like an undefined state,
Right.
but I think there's like basically just a semantic or philosophical problem with defining yourself as not a thing. You know what I mean?
A little bit.
Yeah, but I think not the term non-binary is a placeholder for simply the very notion of the concept. We don't know anything that isn't masculine or feminine. And I
Right.
even saw a study on the science subreddit uh, saying that gender is something that human beings define our humanness by more than any other quality, more than ethnicity or nationality or like more than any other definer. Gender is the thing which human beings define humanness by. Our humanness is like centered upon the fact that we are men and women. And so like
Right.
this is a
That's
very
why people get so bent out of shape about
exactly
it.
this is
Like,
a very
because
very fundamental primal even part of our consciousness. And so
Because
if you have a rigid fixed definition of it, and then somebody comes and tells you like you're not what you think you are, it threatens all kinds of like things inside
see,
you.
that's a interesting point because from where I sit, it's always I've always thought, why do other people care, you know, how I look or who I am? Like, why it doesn't if I'm not directly interacting with you, like what business is it of yours? And but when you put it that way, like it's like, well, I mean, it is how people define, like humanness and humans, right? It's like,
Yeah.
well, I guess I just won't tick that box on the next census. Human,
Other.
other, yeah.
Prefer not to say, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, see, way back when, during the time of the Anunnaki.
In Starseed. I am from the Pleiades.
uh, oh yeah, no, I cracked a joke the last time we talked or podcasted about Nikolai Tesla's enemies on Venus gave him brain cancer. It's like, but that was the thing. He did believe that he was from Venus,
Mm,
and I wish there was more documented information on that,
mm.
exactly he said, like how prevailing of a view was this, or is it just like something that came out later when he started kind of losing it a bit, or
Mm. I think a lot of that stuff comes from his journals. He kept very, very extensive journals,
uh,
both of his scientific research, but also just his sort of philosophy on things.
right.
And
Well,
a
I'll
lot of
shut my mouth. I could have just done more research. I'm like, why isn't there more information?
no, but he had a lot of very interesting ideas. Like it's sort of interesting the difference or the comparison between him and Einstein because they had sort of parallel notions about things
Mm,
uh, like Einstein, when he created relativity, basically he came to the conclusion that the universe was finite, that the like you play out the relativity equation, and there's eventually going to be an end of the universe.
mm,
Tesla proposed the universe was infinite.
right.
And Tesla actually disagreed with relativity. He read the thing, was like, no, there's a quantum connection to gravity. Like you haven't figured
Right.
it out yet. And but so it's very interesting, but
Yeah.
particular, like, see, that's the thing about Tesla which separates him from a lot of the theoretical physicists, is that Tesla was an engineer, and
Yeah.
he could demonstrate principles. He wasn't just in the equations and in the theory about a thing.
Well, there,
If he developed a theory about a thing, he built a device to
right.
demonstrate principles.
Well, yeah, you can be an experimental physicist, but that's usually somebody who takes the work of a theoretical physicist and then tries to, test it. But what he was doing both parts simultaneously. Um,
Right. Yeah. Hmm.
just like how I mix and master my own music,
Mm.
which, um,
Yeah. There's even a story about how he actually created the radio first. Someone else ended up getting the credit for it, but
I
he
heard about.
he he invented the very first remote control device. It was a little boat that he would take to Central Park, and he would like give the boat commands and then like turn his little switch and the boat would go, and people
Uh,
would freak out. Like it was absolute great. Like people would lose their shit. Like, how is it doing that? Ah!
oh,
And
that's great.
it's because Tesla like pioneered a technology and was like playing a practical joke on people to demonstrate it.
Right. That's funny. Like, it's so much harder to impress people with technology these days. But makes me think, like, go back to, okay, the first wheel, like, how blown away were people at the time? Like, what? Or were they like, wait, that's just been sitting like that. Like, why didn't we figure this out sooner? Like,
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah.
But like, I'm
You know,
thinking, I imagine a scenario like some tribal chieftains, like, I hear the next tribe over, their leader is a woman. Looking to marry. I should honor her and send her a large gift, but it is many days travel on foot, even on horse, and it's gonna be too heavy for us to like carry in our hands. What if the horse could drag something behind it, and wheel, axle, boom, and then so they put he puts the gift in there to send to the leader of the next tribe over, and she looks in the crate, and it's a big stone tablet with a dick chiseled in it.
the advent of a technology just to send a pic.
That's the only reason for any technology.
Yeah. I've thought about this. I thought this was interesting. More revolutionary than the invention of the wheel is the invention of the tire. The rubber that goes around the wheel, but the fundamental principle of the tire is air pressure. Now that is a true, like, who realized that the first time ever? Like, wait a minute, it's not just about like this rolling sensation, but if we actually pressurize air, first you have to know that air is a gas and that you can actually pressurize it. And to create and invent the way to trap air and pressurize it and then use it to enhance the effectiveness of a previous technology, like I think
we've been experimenting with people have been experimenting with compressed air for hundreds of years. I think going back as far as the 15 or 1600s.
right, yeah.
Like early Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me on that because I can be a fucking moron at times.
We all can.
Yeah.
We're a bunch of monkeys.
Yeah, except for only some of them, use their multi-million platform deals to say the N-word repeatedly.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, that was before he was picked up, and I mean, when Rogan says, he was always using it in the context of quoting somebody, right? It's like, yeah, I believe him, and he's a comedian. Like, we're like vanguards of the First Amendment in that regard, and yeah, but it's.
I heard Sam Harris do a little response about.
Oh,
about
I was meaning to listen to that, but go ahead. Give your recap.
I love Sam Harris. I like he has a really good way of getting to the heart of a particular issue. But
precise thinking.
Yeah. He made a really good point about this, which is that he knows Rogan very personally. He's known him for a long time. And he knows for a fact that none of those incidents where he ever said the word was ever in the context of disparaging a black person with the word.
Right.
It was only ever using it in reference or talking about it in a very objective sense and how offensive the word is, using the word simply to talk about the social context of the word.
Right.
And that if you know who this person is, you genuinely know at the bottom of your heart that he's not racist, because racism is a very specific thing. Racism is to hold a set of beliefs or opinions that some people are superior to other people or inferior to other people based on their ethnicity. That's a very specific thing. To be a racist is to hold this very specific mindset.
Well,
And
well, uh, there are some black scholars that would beg to differ and say that there's degrees of racism, and that um, you know, being complicit, at a degree, is still, in a way racist. Like okay, so like the new thing I've been hearing, which is interesting, it's like it's not enough to be not a racist anymore. You have to be anti-racist.
hmm. Okay, well, that's a whole trajectory of
I
ideas on
think
its own.
I
But
think we're
well,
both.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think you're
But
way
the
too
point,
arrogant looking to be discussing any of this, Kev.
well, I'm quoting Sam Harris here,
Yeah.
and what his opinion on the matter is,
Right.
which is that whatever it is you're supposed to be doing, the saying of a word with like completely out of context
Mhm.
does not make one racist. And that the if that's what people have degenerated the actual understanding of racism to be, is just the saying of a very specific collection of syllables, and that makes you racist, then we have fundamentally lost the actual solving of the problem. Because so
Mhm.
long as our culture is misidentifying what is true uh, prejudice, and to simply reduce it to the literal utterances of a word out of context, then this not only doesn't solve the actual problem of racism, it confuses it and makes the whole thing worse. And it makes
Right.
people, Patton Oswalt made made this very good point about it, which is that you don't have to actually use these words to be a racist.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
use perfectly politically correct speech to communicate horribly prejudiced ideas,
Right.
but you
Right.
can say it in such a way that all everything you said is technically politically correct.
Yeah.
And so if the political correctness, the semantics of the things we're saying, if that's what racism has become, then we as a culture are going to completely be oblivious to when actual racism is occurring, because we're so busy
Yeah.
misidentifying.
Yeah. Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see,
uh,
he's a great example. He's very, like, it's clearly the things he says are racist, but he never uses the specific
yep.
words, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of, yeah, going to Patton Oswalt, he did a similar bit on the LGBT community, and how like some redneck type, good old boy, um, might say, like, the wrong pronouns, or like, or say stuff that sounds bad, but is actually, all for it. Just like, don't, if it doesn't fuck with me, I don't give a shit, what that tranny wants to wear, and it's like, but that's not your enemy, because they're just
Yeah. Who
simple,
cares
right?
if
And
fags and
yeah,
dykes get married? Let them,
yeah,
like, yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And but then he's met surprisingly large amount of neoliberal types, like college educated people that like to appear that they're allies, but then they'll say like this really disparaging and hateful shit, clouded in all of this collegiate euphemism.
Mhm.
Right? And yeah, so exactly to the same
While
point,
I
but
while I respect the LGBT community and them as people, I feel our country is founded on traditional values,
right, yeah,
and marriage is a traditional thing. And,
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, like, you can be perfectly polite about
yeah,
saying that I don't think gays should get married. You know.
right, right.
Mhm.
um, yeah, and then again, another comedian, Carlin, predicted all this shit. He saw the trend throughout his lifetime of, using softer and softer language to, disconnect from the actual subject that you're talking about. Like, World War One, it was shell shock, and then it becomes battle fatigue.
Yeah.
And then, like, each time you're adding more syllables, like, what was it, battle fatigue? There was another one after that. Shit. But yeah, and then we end up with like post-traumatic stress disorder, and uh, yeah,
using language to distance ourselves from real issues.
But we were talking about psychopaths. You're not supposed to call them that either now. Yeah, yeah, we're so PC that like what is it called, like psychoaffective personality disorder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like yeah, PDS or no, shit. I don't remember the medical terminology. It was updated in the DSM-5.
Mhm.
So now it's lumped up with personality disorders,
Right.
which is great because I've been diagnosed with one, but it's
Yeah.
definitely not psychopath. I don't want to be lumped up with those guys and gals anymore. Well, mostly guys anymore than as a trans woman, I want to be lumped together with fucking pedophiles.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, completely different.
yeah, like
Yeah.
psychos on the opposite of the spectrum. They don't feel feelings enough, and I feel feelings too much. It's like
Right.
yeah, but
Yeah, but therein lies the challenge. Like, how do we address the incentive mechanisms? Because that's really, I think, those are the levers. Because what is it people are rewarded for? What is it people are punished for? This is a very basic, like, understanding of human behaviors. If
well, this is that's a cool question. Uh, I think China is already showing one way to incentivize through social credit score. Just like financial credit, your social credit, and we're doing the same thing in America uh, without um, without conspicuous government intervention. We
mm,
seem to be doing it of our own volition, um, but
right,
it's hard to say how much of it is what's the word, an emergent phenomenon, and how much is an engineered phenomenon.
right,
Um,
yeah. Hmm.
because you know how our government is always like to work. It's like here's the big message. We're all gonna get behind it. Go America! Like
Right,
fuck you,
yeah.
rest of the world. We're number one. We're number one. And then but then do all this fucked up clandestine shit that's like just as evil, or if not more so in some cases, than our so-called enemies abroad, right? But we just keep it away from the public sphere as best as possible. Whereas China doesn't give a shit. They're blatant as hell and just say like, "What? What are you gonna do? This is we're the
Right.
Chinese government.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're the
You know,
rulers.
a really
We
a
rule the
really good
people."
really good example is how like everybody's upset at Rogan for using the N-word. Meanwhile, states are passing completely racially drawn, gerrymandered
Oh yeah,
voting districts.
yep,
The whole banning of CTR and
yep.
the like, this is literally trying to
Oh,
erase
CRT.
to a CRT, yeah. But the effort in this is trying to erase the people of color's history from the United States.
Yeah,
That's the effect that they're going for, is to
just
remove any mention that black and brown people have been mistreated throughout our nation's history. Just get it out of every single source possible.
like,
These are massively racist institutional efforts, and
oh
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
that demands the focus of our entire nation, is
Like
what's
there
going
was
on in these degrees.
I have two recommended um, viewing experiences that cover this topic. The The first one was John Oliver's premiere season 9, I think, or 8, on CRT, critical race theory, and how where all of these bans on it, like you can't teach our kids racism, and it's like in none of these situations is CRT being taught in any public schools in any fashion whatsoever. Yeah. They're being taught at the university level for like specific,
grad program.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's a total red herring. Like and well, not a red herring. It's doing what as intended, but the argument is straw man, and the other one is I think it was the season premiere of a new Louis Theroux docuseries. What's it called? Extreme America or something. Like, are you familiar with Louis Theroux?
I think I've heard of him, yeah.
Yeah, check him out, or I'll send you a link. Yeah, he's a British journalist, and he did a Scientology documentary where, he confronted the church and but couldn't really. Basically they hired like actors to reenact scenes, from like the. But anyways, like it's and he used to do this show called Weird Weekends, where he'd dive into American subcultures, and that was a lot of fun. But he's doing a new one, I think Extreme America, and this episode was about racism in the radical left. I mean, radical right, and it was pretty intense and a bit disturbing. Because like what he was getting into, like apparently there's internet trolls that make a lot of money by saying controversial shit, but there's these particular types of trolls that say blatantly racist shit, and when he was confronting them with it, would say like, "Oh no, it's just irony, right? That's the new style of humor with Gen Z with Zoomers is, we're just being ironic, and since you're not supposed to say these things anymore in polite society, we're being rebellious and standing up for our freedom of speech and and all of that." And the more he digs like through that surface rationing, they're just fucking racist. They're just like, oh no, it was a joke. Like
exactly. But there's a cultural rhetoric now to that people use to truly defend themselves from being racist. And this is another point Harris made about Rogan is that the grace with which Rogan acknowledged like what was fucked up about what he said or did was wonderful. Like he didn't double down, he didn't backpedal, he didn't try to make extraneous excuses. He just accepted it. He said, "I'm sorry." And what more is our culture really supposed to ask from people? Like how are we supposed to?
But he didn't entirely kowtow, because he started off the apology with saying like, of me, there's a video of me saying the N-word repeatedly out of context. Like he made sure that was clear that it wasn't, his intention from the get-go.
Yeah. But this is important to recognize, because like people operating in bad faith won't do that. People who genuinely have a problem won't acknowledge if they've ever said something dumb or fucked up. They will double down on their rhetoric, and they will start playing all of these rhetorical excuses which try to hide the fact that they're just being a dick,
Right. Oh, totally.
And Renegade Cut did a video about this recently, about a song Kid Rock put out recently, like complaining about the wokeness of America. but he was using it as an example for this very important thing to understand about.
You're glitching out a little bit.
Yeah, here we go. This very important thing to understand about social theory, which is emancipation movements and reactionary movements. An emancipation movement is when any group of marginalized people attempts to attain equality. That's it.
Right.
Like, we've been fucked over by the status quo. We just want to be treated as human beings. Please and thank you.
Yeah.
And
I
then
just want to go to the bathroom, you assholes.
and then a reactionary movement of the privileged class who simply feels threatened by the underprivileged attaining an equal level of power. To the privileged, like underprivileged people becoming equals seems like their own power is being taken away. So a lot of the reactionary movement is simply coming from the fact that people who hold the dominant powers in the status quo see all of these incomers for the power, and it's like, wait, no, we liked it the way it was. No, we liked being on the top of the heap.
Yeah, but it's but they don't say that. They don't say that, we don't want to share our power. They go even farther and declare white genocide.
Right.
That's one of their slogans, white genocide.
Yeah. Or to say, oh, you're just being crybabies. You're just being snowflakes to diminuize the importance of someone just asking for equality. Someone saying like, hey, I'm not getting paid as much as you, like I'm being oppressed and beaten by all of these factors. Could I just like have not, please, thank you? And then somebody's saying, oh, you're being a baby. Stop complaining, stop whining.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're being too woke, like.
Oh yeah, in the trans community, can you stop murdering us, please? Like, there's not a lot of us to begin with, so I don't see the deal. But
yeah. Or David Pakman, who's one of these independent journalists, pointed out how like the right wing is latched on to trans people in sports because it's this one little thing which they can make up like seemingly official sounding reasons to why to segregate against trans people. It's like oh, they're competing in sports, they're da da da, and so it's this one little thing where they can blow completely out of proportion to
right. And which they are. And here's the thing, like a lot of people that make those bad faith arguments against trans women in women's sports are the same misogynists that didn't give a shit about women's sports.
Yeah.
Actively talk shit about women's sports in the first place.
That's a really good point.
They don't care about women's sports at all.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, it's been like trans people have been allowed in the Olympics since 2004. Where are all the medals that trans people have taken from cisgender athletes?
Right. You'd think.
What's that? Zero? None?
Yeah.
Yeah. In 18 years, not one medal. Or like I do that bit about Caitlyn Jenner competing in a pro women's golf tournament, then running for governor of California, talking about how trans women have an unfair advantage in women's sports. It's like, bitch, you didn't even win that tournament. Those chicks with ovaries whooped your Olympic ass.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and I got in this debate the other day again because on Reddit, like, change my view. It's like every fucking day there's someone like change my view about this aspect of trans rights, but it becomes quickly apparent they don't want their view changed. Exactly. They just want to say bigoted shit. And this one guy was citing like one trans woman who competed as an athlete, like a swimmer, before transition and was ranked really low, and then started competing in the women's division and ranks higher. And it's like, well, that's one case maybe. Like I know the Olympics are more rigorous as far as like testing for your hormone levels and things like that. So I don't, my point was like the people always jump to, like, well, biological men have, uh, bigger bones, bigger skeletal structure, musculature. They're bigger, stronger, higher lung capacity. They're just better athletes by nature, and hormones aren't going to change the physiology, right? But what they ignore is the fact that you have this bigger frame and structure, but what are you fueling it with? Testosterone, right?
Mhm.
And and so like cis women produce testosterone as well in much lower levels, and trans women suppress that usually even lower than cis women, um, but have bigger frames. So they have more mass. We have more mass to lug around with less fuel to lug it around. So
Mhm.
that actually puts us at a disadvantage but that puts us at a disadvantage in compared to cis women because they have smaller frames and more fuel to use that frame.
Mhm.
So it's,
Yeah.
um, I mean, it's
Yeah. Right. And like I remember it was on an episode of Rogan where they were analyzing Bruce Lee's fighting style.
mm,
And they were talking about this idea that in his day, in the 70s, Bruce Lee was one of the best martial artists in the world. Like literally people would come all around the world to try to fight him and he'd whoop their ass. But
right.
if you were to put Bruce Lee up against a modern MMA fighter,
Yeah.
Lee would get his ass kicked
Yeah.
because the development of the skill has progressed so far since when he was around doing it that to take a standard of a top tier fighter from the 70s, compare them to a top tier fighter of today, there's no contest because of
Right.
the rate that the skill developed. I think the same would actually be true if women's and men's sports became more integrated. I think you
Right.
would see the performances of like the performance standard of women in sports or athletic competitions. I think if they were genuinely competing against men, I think you would see that bar like equal out relatively quickly. Like
Right.
I think it's a part of human nature, especially physically. Like
Yeah.
human beings are aggressively physical creatures. When it comes
Speak for yourself.
well, some of us, let's say. But when like those people who become obsessive about athletics, like the body pushes itself past limitations. That's
Yeah.
something the human body does time and time again. Every time we think a human being has set the record for the most a human can do a thing, fastest runner, highest jump, whatever, it's only a matter of time before someone comes along and beats that record.
I have a question for you. Do you think if I was really dedicated and I trained tirelessly in pursuit of this athletic achievement, do you think eventually I'd be able to punch everybody on the planet in the face simultaneously?
I think if you did all of the physical training plus you got a Neuralink input, you would be able to punch everybody who also had one of those. You know,
See,
That-
that's a
I think that would be the way.
okay. See, that's a perk of the metaverse that Zuckerberg ought to be, pitching to the public.
That's how you sell that thing. No one's
Yeah.
gonna.
uh, uh,
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a money maker too. Like punch the celebrity you hate the most.
virtual
$20.
virtual slap.
Yeah. Get some of the VR boxers, and you can
Yeah.
just bah, bah.
um, I got a VR boxing game. That shit's no joke. Like, just a couple of matches, and I'm like ready to collapse.
Yeah, right. Actually, when you were saying earlier, it's hard to impress people with technology. I think VR is the technology that's doing just that. Like I for people like I was showing my wife some stuff about VR and telling her
Mhm.
about about like how you design and stuff. And she's not tech savvy at all. And when she saw and heard about the degree to which VR has advanced in the modern
Mm.
age, blown away. And
Oh wow.
especially with things like augmented reality. Like you point
Yeah.
your phone at a thing and suddenly, like a whole new world bursts out of the toilet.
Yeah.
That would actually be a pretty cool
Right.
augmented reality thing that you point it at a toilet, like creatures start crawling out or some shit. But
uh,
but
they already did that. It was a movie called Ghoulies.
no, yeah, I haven't seen that, but
Oh, it's a 80s B horror movie.
yeah.
One of the Ghoulies, like the cover on the VHS box was one of these creatures climbing out of a toilet. So yeah.
Mhm.
Iconic for me, but
Yeah.
I'm what, like a good decade almost older than you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but yeah, so I think that's a particular, like, its point is to blend reality or to
Yeah.
change it entirely, and
Yeah. Yeah,
and
at that point, nobody's going to give a shit about gender. Like, 'cause,
right.
I mean, like that person over there is literally in an attack helicopter. It's like, there's no disputing that. I can see it
Yeah.
with my own eyes. um,
Yeah, irrelevant real quick.
my problem with that is there's going to be way too many dragons and cat people.
Just dragons and cats. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what evolution drove us to the entire time.
Yeah, yeah. Dragons and cat people. I'm gonna be a unicorn that farts rainbows.
To be fair, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I if I could have one, like it would be right there the whole time.
Yeah. Um, yeah, like I mean, I guess I take that for granted because I've been fascinated by tech like ever since I was a little kid. I mean, I remember thinking about virtual reality when I was like 5 years old. So like 86 or 85. When I was like 4 or 5 years old. Like, yeah, I think it was I saw the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick and and Daryl and Weird Science, and I just got it in my head, at a young age, like computers are magic, are
Right.
fucking magic. You can do anything you want with a computer. Um, Now, of course, back then that wasn't the case, but like the foresight of
Right. It was that attitude back then that created what we have today. Yeah.
in a way, like uh, how Star Trek technology inspiring generations of scientists, and it's like you watch the original and they they get a message like they pull out a fucking flip phone. It's like what?
Yeah. Right.
Like, we have a supercomputer in our pocket. Like
Yeah.
where's my spaceship? Where's my teleporter?
Like that I think that, as we were saying, like it's this influence of media that manipulates people, but I think it can also be our saving grace. It can also be the thing to inspire us to do more, like you say, like scientists being inspired by Star Trek. I recently started watching the X-Files and just saw a thing saying that when the X-Files came out, the percentage of women who went into STEM fields of medicine, it exploded, and it's known as the Scully Effect.
Hell
because
yeah.
because it, like, this show had such a huge influence, women being able to see a woman who was brilliant and a master of medicine and had all this knowledge and practice, just seeing that even in a fictional context
and took no shit from David Duchovny.
Yeah.
Listen, David, I don't care about your sex addiction. Just read the lines, okay? And no, there's not aliens.
that one moment where she calls him and he's just sitting in the office watching porn. I think that was very foretelling,
Yeah, that was kind of a weird weird time because like he had that show on was it Fox, I think is what it was on, and you know, he'd have that show, but then he'd have his cable show Red Shoe Diaries on like Skinamax, you know, and it's like wait, I don't know if I can reconcile, you know, Mulder and, you know, this skeezy misogynist, and then he comes out as a sex addict publicly years later. It's like, wow, makes sense. Good for him. You know, good looking, good looking guys like that. You know, you kind of expect them to have a sex addiction. You know, if yeah, what is it? First rule of successful dating: don't be ugly. Second rule of successful dating: don't be ugly. My apologies to all of you aesthetically disadvantaged people out there.
Aesthetically challenged.
That's what. Thank you. Aesthetically challenged. Yeah.
That's fucked up.
It is.
You're not ugly. You're aesthetically challenged.
Yeah.
That's political correctness right there.
Yeah, exactly.
See, political correctness can be far more offensive, even, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's being two-faced. It's being intentionally deceptive, you know.
Right. Well, like this is now I don't want to, like, I'm not being disparaging, like, disclaimer, right? But I never understood the transition from the term midget to little person, because little person seems a lot more derogatory than, like, midget doesn't, like, I mean, maybe there's some context, historical context that, you know, us, you know, like, tallies like aren't privy to or unaware of, but like, you know, for most of my life, like, midget was just, you know, that was just the term for somebody that, you know, has those features, like, and it's not like a repurposed word like the word faggot, which, you know, was
had all these other different meanings. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason that became a slur against homosexuals was because during witch burnings, you know, the kindling, the bundle of sticks was used to start the fire, and homosexuals were the first to be burned on the fire to help get it going. So they suffered the slowest, more agonizing deaths. So that's got a fucked up dark context for it, you know, but like I don't know if there's something like that for the word midget or not, because I just thought that's just the word that means that. It's not like a colloquialism or anything, because it's not used in any other context. Like little people, like, sounds like well, it sounds like you're not a full person, you know. It's like you're not a whole person, you're just a little bit of a person, you know. Like, doesn't that sound more denigrating, right?
Yeah, it's all about your perspective. Like Trevor Noah talks about how the word kefir, which is the probiotic, like, yogurt drink here, like, in South Africa, that's the N word.
Right, yeah.
So when he came to the States and saw that word on a little bottle of milk, he was like, racism. You know. But yeah, I saw a lecture from a linguist at the Royal Institute Lectures series talking about the science of profanity, and how there is a genuine science to it, that whatever words your culture deems as profane, those are categorized into a different part of the brain than regular language. Right. And so when you use a profane word, it actually the wires in your brain redirect into this completely different language center in order to use that word. And that like many words like fuck or shit often have physical correspondences in that your entire body reacts differently to these specific words than it does to the rest of the language. And this is all completely determined by cultural norms and standards. The way
Goddamn.
the way your culture treats certain words literally reprograms them in your mind. And a good example of this is when I was in second grade. For some reason or another, I don't know why, but the word pencil became synonymous with penis.
Right.
If it mentioned the word pencil, no matter how much you were literally referring to a pencil, all of the kids around you would be like, "No, he said pencil, yeah, penis."
Or,
You know,
or
children.
nuts.
Yeah, but and so the next year, come the third grade, this just stopped. Nobody cared anymore.
Right.
But I remember having to reprogram my brain to reassociate the word pencil with the actual object, not the concept of a penis. Because my peer group had put so much effort into associating this word with this concept that come when nobody cared anymore, I had to retrain myself. I had to go, okay, pencil means pencil. Pencil does not mean penis, it means pencil, you know?
See, I was never able to untrain my brain that way. I just see dicks and everything. Like this microphone right here, robot penis.
This right here, dangling penis.
Yeah. Hey, get your balls out of the shot.
Yeah. This bong, like it's a dick, you know? But again, like
those are all symbols of the pervasiveness of the patriarchy.
Yeah, right.
all of these dick-shaped things in our world, that's by intent. That is no accident.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You could have made all of those things equally as useful in a spherical shape, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are things phallic at all?
Yeah.
I'm really offended by this dick just sitting on your desk right there. It's really intimidating. I feel like...
Okay, Karen. Why don't you go complain to the manager?
Yeah, where's the manager of this podcast? Who's producing this thing? I canceled this so fast.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't think a spherical pencil would be very good.
Well, maybe. You know, who knows? It just. There you go, smoking another dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we can't unsee it from the.
Ah, damn it. I've got all these microphones and mic stands around me too. Like in the background, it's like I'm surrounded.
Patriarchy's everywhere.
I wonder if there's ever been a boom mic incident during a bukkake shoot.
Like an expensive disaster. So, oh, gross. Oh no.
Well, no, I mean, no, I was thinking more of like the actress getting so confused by like that many dicks around that ends up with a boom mic in her mouth.
Oh. Maybe.
Still a potentially expensive incident.
Right, yeah.
You ruined the money shot.
Or maybe that was the money shot.
Yeah. Okay, well that derailed quickly. we went from like brow here to like brow here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's just fine. Yeah.
That's
gonna be high and low brow at the same time.
right. Right.
Yeah. That's the best comedians though.
Unless you want to be president of the United States, then you could just get by with being lowbrow all the time.
Right, yeah.
Grab them by the pussy.
You know, like I don't know if you've heard about this guy, but there is a
I haven't.
there is a Senate candidate or a congressional candidate from, I think, Georgia, one of these southern states,
Yeah, of
and
course.
and in his ad, he is smoking a blunt while burning a Confederate flag.
Oh,
Talk,
Louisiana.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know the guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like, yeah, the right wing has all of these radicals who are being like promoted through the antagonism of the social media algorithms, you know,
Yeah.
but this is something that could be used strategically, and that's exactly what this guy is doing.
Right.
He's realized that, wait a minute, if I'm just real as fuck right now, and I use a sort of radical, even confrontational approach to this, but for
Yeah.
the right reasons, I could actually get a lot of attention. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's working. Like everything I see about this guy, people are stoked that someone is running for political office and has this sort of balls. It's
Yeah.
the exact same, it's the exact same thing the right wing has for Trump. Like
Yeah.
they you know, they're oblivious to any sort of policy, but what they appreciate is someone just coming out and speaking like a human being,
Well,
as
yeah.
opposed to
No.
all of this political talk. That's
Andrew Yang really got that going pretty well for himself too. Like being farther on the left and
yeah,
being able
yeah.
to like just speak like a person and
Mhm.
run a fairly successful grassroots campaign.
And you know,
Um,
like on one hand, I respect Yang for like being non-confrontational, but I actually think him trying to be a nice guy has held him back a little bit.
yeah,
I think if he leaned into the parts of his platform which are
yeah.
radical, and if he leaned into that radicalness, like I've seen him, like he
He
tries
needs
to.
to be more goth.
Yeah, like if he was,
Yeah,
I bet like because there's like he tries to be political, and he tries not to step on toes even though he
right.
has radical ideas.
Yeah.
But I think we need more aggressiveness from the left, you know?
Well,
Like
like it reminds me of this movie line and from the movie Seven with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, and but it's a Kevin Spacey line. So like you gotta forget about the kid diddling for a moment because this was just good performance and great writing. At the end, near the end of the movie, before the head in the box scene on the car ride, Spacey, he plays the serial killers in the back seat. And they're asking him, like, why all these grisly murders and all these puzzles and everything. And I always like this quote, like, well, in these days, it's not so much to merely tap somebody on the shoulder to get their attention. You need to hit them over the head with a sledgehammer, and um, it's kind of oddly prophetic because that movie came out in the mid 90s, and so it's like the internet was still just barely a thing, and but there's like cable TV and video games and all that, and so there was this growing concern of media influence more so than previously, and but oh my god, like look at it now. I mean, that's just on the nose now.
yeah.
um,
Yeah, very much so. You know, I've been learning a lot about game theory lately.
did you read von Neumann's book?
No, I did not, but that's
I had a copy of it a while back, and I loaned it to somebody, never got it back. But it's a good read. You should get it.
yeah. Yeah, because it's a very, it really helps you to understand why things go the way they go. You know,
Yeah.
because just the nature of our competitive spirit,
Mhm.
drives us, and all institutions to which we take part into game
It's,
dynamics.
but see the like that competitive nature is not necessarily natural. It's not an inherent thing we're born with. It's a
Right.
cultural thing because you can look at indigenous tribes, um, and often like teamwork and cooperation is prioritized above all else, because
Right,
you're
but
intimately dependent on each other's survival.
yeah. But an important aspect of game theory to understand is that certain game dynamics trap you into playing the game. So with zero sum systems where it's a winner take all.
Capitalism.
Yeah. But basically, if you say, okay, like I could cheat at this game, I could play dirty, I could sacrifice the other people in order for me to get ahead, because if I do that, I'll win the game. This is what I was talking about with incentivization and why psychopaths rise to the top tier of a society which incentivizes this, is because they're really good at playing that game. They have very little incentive to care about people, and so if selling them out wins the game for them, then they just naturally rise to the top.
Here's the key point of that theory, and how it plays out in experimentation, is that in a zero-sum game, the dirty player, the selfish player, doesn't win the game. They win the round. They get ahead, and it looks like they can win every time with the strategy, or most of the time. And so it pays off in the short term, but in the long-term iterations, everybody loses. There are no winners in a zero-sum game, period.
Because you can't play a zero-sum game with finite resources. You cannot play winner take all on a finite globe where you cannot indefinitely run fossil fuels in the oil paradigm when that's a finite resource. You can't hoard all the trees and cut them all down when that's a finite resource.
Right. But here's the thing. Part of the problem, I think, is that there's a condition, like a conditional intersection between iterations of the game and human lifespan, in that, so that by the time there might be repercussions for your shitty actions, like you're already dead by the time those are coming about. So you never see the although, I mean,
exactly. Well, yeah,
fucking climate crisis is evidence. Like, climate crisis, it's there. That is the negative effect of everybody losing. But there's just, psychopaths running the machines. There's psychopaths running, pulling the strings and everything. Always has been throughout all of history.
Yeah, and then once those psychopaths got to the top, they designed the rules of the system in such a way which perpetuates their topness and the rest of everybody's bottomness.
No, man. I found a way to hack the system. It's all about NFTs, man. You got to get on the NFT train. That's the only way to get out of your poverty and be one of the big tech players on the planet.
That's not far off. Figuring out how to work, because that's the idea, is so game A is the zero sum dynamic winner take all competitive system, and that's the game that the world is playing right now. And so the question is, how do we transition from game A to game B? The game B is the protopic society, not the utopic fantasy world, but protopic society, which we can solve problems as a cohesive whole, And so how do we transition game A systems to game B systems? And the idea is that the game B system needs to be able to play by the rules of game A. It plays in the same game according to the same rules, but the design of it is inherently so superior that it naturally outcompetes game A to the point where it becomes the dominant game.
Yeah, that's exactly what Andrew Yang was saying.
Exactly.
By the way, Andrew, I need $1,000, please.
Thank you.
I'm poor. I'm on disability. They won't let me work.
Yeah, but see, like UBI is a perfect example of a game B system because it can be installed into the capitalism operating system, but then it fundamentally reprograms all of the predatory aspects of capitalism by redistributing wealth. It fixes a fundamental flaw within the original system, and then it is one means of transitioning the field of economics into a game B world. And so
Yeah.
that's the general goal then for any of us who want to be problem solvers is
Right.
learning how to develop game B systems.
Right. Yeah. See, if the, I mean, that's the thing, or one of the things. Like, I'm thinking of like supply and demand and how like, um, the value of NFTs runs on artificial scarcity, but that's really how the entire economic system. I mean, nothing. I'm too stupid to understand economics in a meaningful way, but as far as I understand, like um, it's the artificial scarcity that drives the type of consumer-based economy that we run off of. It's like, I gotta work these slave wages so I can buy shit that I don't need
Yeah,
because that's my status symbol on how hard I work is being
right.
able to, have the biggest TV in the neighborhood or the fanciest car or whatnot.
Right, yeah.
And but then the thing is, like, it's argued that we do live in a world of abundance. Like, we do have enough to go around. We just, I mean, the supply chain issue is a real one that, like, that's not a brush off when you ask, a billionaire like Elon Musk, like, why aren't we feeding and clothing and housing everybody? And it's like, well, you know, that's a legitimate reason when you talk on a global scale. But just focused on America, that's not the case. We could do that, and
Well,
it's just a matter of like,
whether it's a global or local scale, in a post-industrial society, in a pre-industrial society, maybe scarcity was a thing because not everybody could reach the resources. In a post-industrial society, all of the things that created scarcity have been solved for, and now we live in a purely artificial scarcity world.
what right?
And so
That's what I'm getting at.
yeah, and so the problem at this point is purely resource management and prioritization. I
Uh,
just saw, I just
I
saw.
would say the problem is morality,
Well, right, but that's a part of it because
a management problem.
yeah, because so this 20-year war in Afghanistan just ends,
Yeah,
and now all of a sudden Biden spends $800 billion on a brand new military budget to go start a war in Ukraine when he promised people years ago that he was going to cancel student debt. You
right.
know, like
And
where is the
lower
priority?
drug
Yeah,
prices, give
why are
us better
like
access to
$800
medical care.
$800 billion? I think was pretty close to the price tag the UN gave to solving world hunger, and we just
Yep,
spent all of that money on bombs.
yep,
Like that is
yep.
priority. That is
Yeah, yep.
resource
What's
mismanagement.
the number to house all the homeless in this country? I think it was something like 80 billion.
Yeah,
80
yeah.
billion. Yeah,
With you could end poverty and homelessness in the United States and other areas of the world with only 10% of the military budget.
yeah.
Now, that's the case.
And
It's just clear that
and the problem isn't just like um isn't just like that stronghold and hoarding by big corporations and the government, like it's the 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 message that's been propagated for generations, and like you still hear this talking point, from the right wing, you know, when you talk about like people like in my situation, you know, where I'm on disability and food stamps because of, you know, stuff. And, you know, one of the first things is like, well, you know, I could never do that. You know, like, I work for a living. I'm not going to take a government handout. You know, the government shouldn't just be like handing out money to, you know, lazy people, or, you know, it's always lazy people. It's never somebody who has, you know, issues, right? And but the fact of the matter is that it's not a government handout. That's our fucking money. You
Right.
know, like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
our money. It's not the
Yeah.
government's money. So
And why are people okay with their tax dollars going to blow up strangers in other countries that they've never met? Why are they okay
freedom,
with that? We're okay with
freedom.
those tax dollars going to kill people, but not to go feed and give people homes in our own country.
Right,
There
right,
is
right.
a fundamental
It's
ideological clusterfuck happening, which it makes this okay for
well,
some
it's
people.
it's exactly what Eisenhower warned us about with his closing address to the nation. You know, that
Yeah, exactly.
warned of the military-industrial complex, and
Right, yeah. When you combine the profit incentive of capitalism with war, you have a really like dangerous
that
combination.
was what, like 80 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Yeah,
uh,
but like the uh a recent episode of Lex Friedman I was watching where he was talking to an author who wrote a book called Sickening, which is this
mm.
very extensive analysis of how the pharmaceutical industry
Oh yeah,
has
I watched that one.
completely corrupted the science of medicine, not just the economy of medicine, and prevented like a free Medicare system from happening, but they've actually corrupted the science of
Yeah.
medicine itself because the profit incentive and the power of money in our society just gave these groups the ability to uh, uh, completely take all legitimacy away from scientific research. That when you can just pour money into fundings, which and you can cherry pick all of your research and
Right.
you know
Right. It's not independently researched. It's all like done in-house. So, you know, you can focus on whatever results you want, and sweep other, you know, results under the rug. And
yeah. Hmm.
which I mean, there's been criminal trials, or not, well, not criminal. There've been lawsuits, and
Exactly.
the amount of money that the big pharma companies have been hit with, it's like a drop in the ocean to them. It's, you know, nobody's done actual uh, time. Like there's been no like criminal like punitive action. So I mean, it's not even a slap in the wrist on the wrist. It's less like there's no accountability.
Yeah,
That's the
furthermore,
problem.
these companies have insurance to pay for lawsuits.
Yeah,
It's not even coming out of their own pocket.
yeah,
They have fucking insurance to cover the lawsuits of their
yeah.
destructive actions.
Right,
And
right.
so you have 100% motive to hurt people, and you have 0% punishment to not
Yeah,
hurt people. So of course the system is going to look the way it looks when it's
yeah,
designed this way.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, Citizens United was one of the worst things passed in a long time. Like, I mean, that just, yeah. That's, I mean, that's what we pretty much started off the conversation talking about. Like,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
again, like Yang came up with ideas to decorrupt the system while allowing the system to continue with its operation. You know, like
right.
a Leninist socialist revolution is never going to happen in this country.
No.
Like capitalism is not a monster that can actually be killed and defeated like
Yeah.
directly. It
And
needs to be converted, you know?
and yeah, and the thing is like it's not, you know, I'm not anti-capitalist, you know, like because, you know, I do believe that competition does drive innovation, right? Like in that philosophical outlook of it as a system, you know, I agree with. But and many other facets. It's just
Yeah.
it's just broken. It's like
Right.
it's just like there's like, people say like, well, communism doesn't work. That's why it's bad. It's a shitty system. And it's like, well, there's not really an example of it being implemented in a society that's not a dictatorship, right? Or it's not, yeah, like it's never been used in a democracy, except for the closest example was the revolution in the Spanish Revolution, I believe it was, where yeah, fascists were taking over, and like Mussolini was spreading, and but yeah, I think it was just in one city that the I'm sorry, I'm blanking on some of the terms here, but like basically the revolutionaries, overthrew the fascist government, and there's nothing in place to, like there's nothing to replace it with. So they basically became an anarcho democratic or anarcho socialist city, basically just like a big commune, like just, everybody help each other, we all share everything, and I think that ran for maybe 2 years most. It wasn't a very long experiment before.
Right.
And I don't remember exactly how it happened. Like that system was overthrown again. Like it wasn't that it didn't work and they were like, oh, this sucks, and everybody's starving. It was working just fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same thing was happening in the Russian Revolution when Lenin first the Bolsheviks took hold of things, and they were trying to create a state as close to the ideal of Marx as possible. And
Right.
at that time, early 1900s, Russia became the very first nation to give women equal rights to men. And like in to such a degree that many countries and even the United States still doesn't recognize the equality of women to men. They paid teachers as much as doctors. They really instituted all these ideals. But as soon as the visionary dies, the power vacuum occurs, the psychopath takes over, and
Yeah.
the whole thing becomes compromised.
Just starts over again.
Yeah, exactly. And so the libertarian argument for free markets is theoretically sound just as much as Marxism is theoretically sound. But it's extremely naive in assuming that markets are acting in good faith. That's the fundamental flaw of libertarianism, is the assumption that people will not abuse markets,
Well, and that's also assuming
prey on other people.
Well, and that's also assuming that the market will have incentive to supply for like minority groups or niche interests, that like what was it? Yeah, like I have this talk with Laser often, because he's a libertarian, and I'm like, okay, so in your anarcho libertarian, like let the market decide and handle everything scenario, somebody like me who is not able to work a full-time job because of disabilities, how would I get the treatment that I need for my health, right? Like or like my hormone replacement therapy, is some like angel investor going to start a company to help people with personality disorders and epilepsy, and like, or like I don't know. I just don't. I don't trust the inherent goodwill of everybody.
Right. And
Um,
also the argument really relies upon this analogy to nature and saying that, well, things compete in nature and that drives their evolution. So
Right.
markets work in the exact same way. But this is a point Schmachtenberger makes a lot, which is that humans are non-comparable to any other creature in nature when it comes to competition. Because in nature, when the gazelle gets a little bit faster, the lion gets a little bit faster. If the insect develops a better camouflage, the predator's vision becomes a little bit better. And so the competitive nature in element in nature is equilibrious.
Right.
Like a fish will reproduce 100 fish and the whale will come and eat 20 of them, and there will be, and there's a relative balance in that design. But the whale can't put out a mile-long drift net and
Right.
and just scour like thousands of feet of the ocean at a time, like pulling up thousands and thousands of fish,
Right.
like
Yeah.
like a balanced competitive market would look like the scenario where Amazon crushed diapers.com. Amazon,
Yeah.
like diapers.com wouldn't sell to Amazon, so
Yeah.
Amazon sells diapers at a ridiculously low price, hemorrhages profits until they
Right.
run that company out of business, buy them,
Yeah.
and jack the prices back up.
Yep.
There is a completely asymmetric distribution of power in the human world. You cannot model what human beings do based off of anything in nature. We are a
Right.
completely different, like,
Yeah.
species entirely.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like yeah, we got as fast as we were gonna get, and the Lions are still catching us, so we built sports cars.
Yeah, the lions don't have guns.
Yeah.
The lions don't
Yeah.
invent poisons with which
Yeah.
they can seed into the grasses and just kill the entire population of
Yeah.
gazelle at
Just
once.
yeah. Like yeah. There's you don't see genocide in the natural kingdom. Well, I mean, I guess you do. Never mind. Well,
Well,
not amongst the same species.
when that occurs, there is still a relative asymmetry in power dynamics. Like when invasive species are brought into new environments, where
Right.
the environment they came from adapted them to all of these challenges, so they became really powerful. But then you
Right.
put them in an environment with no predators, they dominate, they
Hmm.
overpopulate, like snakes in Florida.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. The ball
Yeah.
pythons that people would get as pets, and they get too
Or
big.
or on some of the islands of Hawaii, people tried to bring mongooses in to fight the
Yeah.
rodent populations, but then mongoose didn't eat the rodents. They started eating the eggs of native birds,
Yep.
and now there's a native population of mongoose on the big island of Hawaii.
Yeah.
Because they have no predators. And so, yeah, they're
Right.
going to dominate in this environment. But even then, that's one caused by humans. Like when that happens in nature, more often than not, humans did it. So
Yeah.
humans are still the cause of asymmetries and the destruction of environments.
Yeah.
And two, the asymmetry can still be relatively like balanced over time,
Yeah.
like nature will eventually do something, create a new predator, give the prey, adaptations to help survive. There will
Yeah.
come over time another equilibrium.
Viruses.
Humans are outside of nature's ability to keep us in equilibrium with itself.
Well,
That's
I
something.
mean, I think viruses have always been really good at doing that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
I think yeah, like the
that's one of the
microscopic regulates the macroscopic.
Yeah, like if we can get our shit together, because otherwise we can create a vaccine which can completely eliminate a disease.
Oh
Like,
no, no, no! No. That's see, going back to control. That's the problem. You can't have the government putting all those microchips and those dummies getting a virus. Like or getting a vaccine. I mean, you need to drink bleach, or better yet, inject it into your eyeballs. And
Right. Yeah.
internet, if you're listening, that's called sarcasm. Okay, not advocating drinking bleach.
Yeah.
Except for to cool off on a hot summer afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm not saying drinking bleach will cure anything, except for
It will.
stupidity.
It will cure. It will cure life. If you are,
Yeah,
if you're a living thing and you want that cured, drink
Yeah.
some bleach.
yeah. It'll cure stupidity.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Your brain will not function any longer.
That's not a fun way to go either. Not that anyway is fun. Although, I mean, I would imagine that, heroin overdose is probably not so bad because, you're so fucked up you probably don't even notice the difference.
Yeah.
Um,
Or that episode of Futurama where Fry is getting carried off by a robotic pterodactyl. He's like, "This is a really cool way to die."
yeah.
I'd be down for that.
If you had a choice of execution, right? Like, and I'm against capital punishment, but it's still around. If you were going to be executed, what would your choice be?
Probably like thrown out of a plane.
get your thrill seeker on right before the end.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that'd be pretty epic. I'd be happy to go out like that.
I've given this a lot of thought over the years, and I think my latest one. I gotta say, dynamite helmet.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Give the people a show, damn it.
Yeah.
I don't want to see somebody strapped to a table like going to sleep,
Yeah.
Although, like when you hear about what the effects of lethal injection, because it's 3 shots,
Right.
it's brutal. It's fucking brutal.
Yeah.
Because, they're in agony. You just can't tell. So, it's not supposed to be a more humane way of execution. It's just supposed to be easier to witness.
Some way, for people to see it. Yeah.
Yep. Roman Colosseum. That's where we're at in this country.
That's really want that Hunger Games. Like Squid Games.
Well, it's the Colosseum effect is how you see such bad behavior on the internet just for imaginary internet points. I want those likes, I want those upvotes. So, I'm going to watch a woman get brutally beaten on the subway and not do a thing and not lift a finger to help her because I'm going to film it and put it on my Instagram to show people like, oh, wow, isn't this, messed up, like what kind of asshole would beat a woman on the subway? It's like, well, what kind of asshole would just stand there and film it,
right. Yeah. There's the idea that most of these problems are induced by civilization itself. The fact that in tribal communities, every single person in your community if you're not directly related to them. You can't do anything that's going to hurt somebody without everybody else knowing and without you being directly related to the person to which you are hurting. The consequences for your actions can never be externalized. And in society, when you get over a certain number of people, you can start doing things and never ever witness the consequences of them. And Schmachtenberger even points out
that's why I always that's if I'm going to send unsolicited dick pics, I always send them to Mars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it'll be generations before people are offended.
And by then maybe cultural standards would have changed. Maybe that's how you introduce yourself in the future. Maybe this normalizes it to such a degree that just becomes like a handshake.
I mean, everybody's got an OnlyFans.
It's like he didn't send me a dick pic. That was really rude. He just said hi to me without showing me his dick first.
I can't wait. No. Actually, that's the worst. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
I get my fair deal of unsolicited dick pics, and but it always starts off with like innocuous conversation with like a friend of a friend on Facebook or something like that. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know this person, but they're on my friends list or something, and like, and it's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Blah 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 blah, and just and I'll talk to anybody,
Yeah, right.
because I'm fucking naive like that. Like, I don't have those social red flags that pop up, and then I remember one time in specific though. This is hilarious. This guy asked me, "Yeah, what are you up to?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm watching an interview with Travis Walton about his alien abduction experience," and then the response was a dick pic.
Okay. What about that? Was like, yes, now's the time.
Yeah, right. I mean,
She's in a really good place for this.
yeah. I mean, like if it came with a little quip like, "Hey baby, you looking to get probed?"
Yeah.
Like that might have made it, a little bit. That would have been some sugar to help the medicine go down. I don't know why I called it medicine, but like it's just like take the edge off.
Yeah.
Like
The
the
abrasiveness of seeing a dick.
right, like an unexpected dick.
Yeah.
It's like um uh
Now- was it like hard, or was it just a flaccid dick?
oh shit. I don't. I'm pretty sure it was hard. Yeah, if I remember. Yeah, it was a big black dick. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It's just
Well,
bam.
welcome to being a woman,
Uh, yeah.
been you've been dick picked in.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's funny. Like, I mean, I'm I'm pretty jaded to dick pics, right?
I
But
think a lot of our culture
it's
is, and I think
yeah,
that's not a good sign.
yeah.
But it's become so normalized, or that
Uh,
you can meet some seemingly very innocent looking dude, and then a couple texts in out of nowhere, like
yeah. But
not a good
it's
precedent.
not it's not normalized to the point that it's considered socially acceptable. Like, people that do that are called out as being pieces of shit. Like, because it borders on sexual assault. It's not
Right.
any different than doing it in person.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, that's
Uh,
what I'm like. I don't think it is treated. It's not treated the same way.
yeah.
Because it's being channeled through this medium of the phone. It's not
Well,
it's not being perceived the
I
same
it,
for some
it's
reason.
it's a difference in dimensionality, because you go from a three-dimensional dick to a two-dimensional dick. That's a whole dimension
Of a dick.
of less dick. It's a whole dimension of less dick, right? Like, and yeah, like, I mean, the people, the inhabitants of Flatland aren't going to be offended by my dick poking into their universe, right? Because they're
Because it's
just going to be seeing it.
something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're just gonna see like a circle in the sky, a tiny circle that gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then as it enters, and then smaller and smaller and smaller as it recedes, and then disappears. Right? They don't
Right.
they
Yeah.
don't have. Yeah. So
Maybe
like,
that's why it's so offensive and to us in the third dimension, because it's this 3D intruding, like
yeah,
got your 3D glasses on and whoa,
yeah.
it's coming right at me.
Oh, well, that's what VR porn's for.
Right.
um,
Oh man, VR porn from the woman's perspective would be fucking terrible.
hey, no, I've actually tried it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's kind of neat, but it's very rare to find because
I
there's
bet.
not much of a demand for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
POV, the woman's woman's
yeah,
POV. I don't think is that
yeah,
because it's
and,
just like in the face.
and yeah, I've only come across one that is from a trans perspective. Out of all of the trans porn out there, like VR trans porn out there, like I've come across one video, and I say all of it because I'm seeing all of it. No,
Scoured the net.
yeah. But I find that interesting. But more interesting though is that there's plenty, like almost all of them are from a male perspective, which like I don't like to watch because it makes me kind of dysphoric, you know, like looking down and seeing a male body and everything. And but there's a lot of those where the trans woman fucks the guy from his perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like doubly no. Like I'm so like
yeah.
like there goes my lady boner. Thanks, internet.
Not what I wanted at all.
Yeah. Thanks, Facebook.
This was on Facebook.
Well, because it's an Oculus, you know. It's
Right.
but yeah, no. Let me tell you though, there's nothing more embarrassing than getting caught masturbating wearing an Oculus while playing Minecraft.
All those pixels really
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah, those creepers, they're just just green dicks with feet, and they explode too.
Yeah, right.
Man, you blew up my tower. Also shaped like a dick.
Can't escape it. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And on that note, I'd like to at least pause for a minute because I don't know about you, but I've got to use the bathroom.
Yeah, I actually have to get some lunch and get going and do some things here. But
oh, okay, cool.
We can wrap it up for now.
All right, cool.
Awesome. This is a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. Do it again soon.
Oh, hell yeah. You're going to be a regular. You know that.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Kalimba.
Talk to you later.
Kalimba. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, yeah. I'll play you out.
Yeah. All right. Ciao.
See ya.